So that's what I was hoping you would say.
So, folks, our next reader is John Brantingham, who is better known as the god of the Inland Empire. He is somewhat legendary as one of the prime movers and shakers, literary movers and shakers of the Inland Empire. You might say an Energizer bunny of activity to try and keep things going. He teaches at Mount St. Antonio Community College, where through innovative funding he makes wonderful things happen. He's founding a poetry center in what town is it in again?
We think West Covina.
Well, probably in West Covina. He is a poet with 2 chapbooks and a book of poems called East of Los Angeles. Fiction writer, fiction editor for the Chiron Review. He's appeared on Garrison Keillor, published in many, many different magazines. Wonderful book of poems, which some of you guys have read, East of Los Angeles, which has that kind of elegant simplicity of the later William Carlos Williams, very personal, very plain, but kind of shot through with a kind of a mythological underpinning that makes everything shine. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Here's John Brantingham.
I heard God, I heard William Carlos Williams, and that's what I heard. Yeah. I'm going to read East of Los Angeles in a couple of minutes, but I want to start off with some new stuff. And these come from travel poems that I'm doing right now. And this is just travel one. This is called My Second Self. This is all about upstate New York. I don't know if you know upstate New York very well, but it's different than New York, New York. My second self. I could have easily grown up in one of these little towns in upstate New York. Watertown, Plattsburgh, or Albany. Someplace like that. Except my father's company sent him west to Los Angeles. And instead of feeling trapped my whole life the way that so many people here do, I felt uprooted. I suppose it doesn't make much difference to me. But I'm thinking these kinds of thoughts as Anders and I cross into Canada. Knowing me, he tells me not to joke with the guard. But one glance at the serious young man, and I know I wouldn't have. I can see his whole life written in his face. The life that Exley wrote so well about up here. The life I would have had if I hadn't been put on the other side of the country. There would be long work days and evenings with the kids and a wife. Weekends around town watching these kids lose at baseball and half believing the priest at Saint whatever. And the whole veneer of life that I would say that I wanted. That it was just what I wanted. And the booze that would wash over me in the evening would make me believe all that. And I would ignore the dissatisfaction. I know this would be my life because it was the life of uncles and aunts. And I suppose 8 generations of Brantingham. Right back to George, who left his dissatisfaction in the little English town named for our family. I can see all that all in the guard's face. So no, I don't make a joke. And I wouldn't have. And sure, I'd be happy to answer any question he has without resentment. Without anger over the intrusion. With the love one can only show to one's other self. And I just halfway through that, I realized I was accusing all of my aunts and uncles of being alcoholics. And that's really bad because my parents never come to my readings, but they're here right now. So I'm really thinking about Uncle James. Not Aunt Abby. Here's one about this is called in the Imperial War Museum, February 2nd, 1991. I've got a lot of poems about my beautiful wife Anne. Is she lovely? The Imperial War Museum is a museum in England about wars done by the Empire. The first day you found me, I was lost, off by the gas masks and green fog of the Great War. It was to sounds of bloody coughs and gurgling hate, and all that, and gurgling death, and all that ancient hate that I learned love. The tour group had moved on without us, but you were there to pull me out of the wreckage of festering human sacrifices. And you said that we should make our break away from the cannons of North Africa, past the rotting dead lying in the east. You even took me from those terrible battles raging in my head, and you brought me, my love, into the bright London evening, just slanting towards twilight. Okay, so a little east of Los Angeles. Or should I do another London one? Should I do London one? Los Angeles. What do you think?
Go with what you feel.
What I feel? Feel the poetry. Okay, I'll do another one about my beautiful wife.
It's the one about being on Garrison Keillor.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Oh, what about his wife?
I know.
She'll come later.
She'll come.
Yeah, she's fine. I just, at readings, I like to make her blush as much as humanly possible. This is called Watch Out. Do you know what Garrison Keillor is? He does a radio program in the mornings where he does poetry.
Lake Wobegon, what's it called?
What's
Lake
that?
Wobegon.
Yeah, Lake Wobegon.
Prairie Home Companion.
Yeah,
Prairie Home
yeah.
Companion, that's what it is.
Watch out. This morning, Garrison Keillor read my poem on Writer's Almanac. I've looked through the online archive to find that yesterday he read one by Shakespeare. And in a couple of days, it's going to be Sharon Olds. Now, if my friends and colleagues thought it was just about impossible to talk to me before, they have no idea what an insufferable ass I plan to be from now on. It's true, too. Pontificating like nobody's business. This is my wife poem. I'll read a couple of wife poems. She's so pretty. Yeah. You are. Darling, you know you're like one of those marble statues in the British Museum. One of those they put out for students and tourists to prove that the English know perfection. One of those they stole from the Greeks and can't bear to give back. Or one of those they stole from the seafloor and the sunfish who used to worship them in a watery way. One of those they stole because the Greeks made them sing and reminded each other of how good could be. So good that whole civilizations are suggested in the curving line on some forgotten goddess's smiling lip. Darling, you know you are that beautiful. So it is with love that I say you have a big nose. And last night, as we kissed, you inhaled and pulled me inside of you, down into your lungs, and I swam around in your warm blood until it drowsed me. I swam downstream looking for a place to rest, and found your stomach, where a pillow of baklava lay waiting for me. And when I drifted off to sleep, I dreamed of you, of your muscles, tissues, bones, and bowels, each part perfect enough to suggest an entire civilization. And I dreamed that you were my goddess, and I was your willing sunfish. I swam around you and worshipped you for millennia, as the British drifted by in ships above, stealing and stealing, but missing us down here in the perfect temple of the sea. What everybody always takes away from that. I've got, I don't know, 30 lines about comparing her to Greek goddesses and things, and then they always say, she doesn't have a big nose. How dare you?
Wonderful poem.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's meant to be complimentary.
It is, isn't it?
The natural history of the world. The natural history of the world is written on your body. Millions of years, millions and millions. Your forebear was a fish, a beast who roamed the depths, spending his day trying not to die in the cold, dark waters that heaved relentlessly around him. And you take after him. You have his flashing eyes, his sleekness, his pulsing, endless life. Surrounding you is his ridiculous hope, the hope that kept him moving, dodging the monsters that lived there, the vitality that attracted his watery wife to him, the faith he gave to his children, who passed on to theirs, who had the good sense, after a while, to stand up and walk out of that tomb. You have his energy and passion, and in your eyes I can see him, joyful, playful, and beautiful. Oh, here's Los Angeles, my love song to Los Angeles. My love for you, King Smog, is the love of an old woman for an old man. I love you with all of your faults, even sometimes because of your faults. I love your freeways, your 5, 405, 605, 105, and your 10, 210s, 710s. I can't get through that line without starting to cry, because it's just, the freeways are just so beautiful. And for your pesticide beaches, choked with human waste, too dangerous to bathe in, but too beautiful not to. I love you for your LACMA and Mocha and Getty, and your free jazz concerts and your expensive jazz concerts. Even when your hills burn orange sherbet, and when you quake your buildings down, and when murderous hot winds come just when I thought the summer heat was gone. I love you for torrential rains and mudslides and strip malls and romances. I love you when your air creeps in on little cat claws, climbing onto my chest, choking me with methane breath. I love you for insane Friday afternoons, everyone on a mission somewhere, and no one moving anywhere. I love you for Claremont, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Northridge, and Long Beach, even when Long Beach Harbor smells of dirty dish rags 3 days gone. And even though I've said I will leave you, Lord Smog, the first chance I have, I think I'll stay with you until they scatter my ashes on the Pacific Coast Highway, and the desert winds blow me into the infinity of your endless suburbs.
Very good.
Let's see. That the world could be LA. Another LA love poem. Okay. This is because I've got a few of my students here, David and Marta and Jeffrey, and even Scott was an old student. And I think they're all surprised to find out that I have parents. I think this might have been a class that you were in, I don't know. That the world could be LA. Instead of taking roll every morning, I ask my students a question of the day. And this morning's question is, what other time period would they have liked to have lived in? It's a fairly banal question, but they have fun with it, especially a group of 4 friends sitting in the back, who all say they wish they could be part of the Crusades. When it's Seper's turn, my one Persian student, he turns to them, and in a fish-shaking parody of what we see presented in movies and on television, he says, I would like to live during the Crusades as well. This is Los Angeles. This is the Los Angeles that I'm so in love with. The ones sitting in the back were serious about wanting to crusade. And maybe Seper's answer was only half joking. But the Middle East is the Middle East, and it's as far away from as it could be. And they all like Seper. And in fact, in the class, Ben, a conservative Jew, is Seper's closest friend. And the two leave the class talking about their weekend plans. Perhaps LA is as vanilla and plastic as the world says it is. And maybe out here, we've lost touch with the traditional values of the East. But in the end, I believe I'd take this piece over that kind of authenticity every single time. So, yeah. Okay. We turn out, this poem, this group covers my life. And there was a period when I lived up in Lake Arrowhead. And I lived there for a lot of years, and I loved it there. It's only the traffic that made me move back down here. It was really horrible. The commute turned into 4 hours a day. It's terrible. This is about that. We turn out the lights. Annie and I like to turn out the porch lights and watch the satellites fly by. Up here in the mountains, so much is beautiful. The city below is peaceful, calm, twinkling, dressed up like Christmas or the party of some little girl's imagination. It's only at some distorted middle link that satellites look like space trash, and a city falls into cliché, torn apart and dangerous. Far away they sparkle, and close up you can see the precision of mechanics, or a single person just doing what he can to help his friends make it to the next day. Okay. And go backwards a little bit here. Get towards my youth. A blessing. In the backyard, do you remember the 70s? Oh, the 70s. Fantastic. Yeah, I remember the 70s. Yeah. A blessing. In the backyard, the Oldsmobile that hasn't started in 3 months has become a table for men. They pour Cutty Sark over ice in day-glow plastic cups and talk car repair. I'm there too, 8 years old and almost completely deaf, hiding from the sun under the car and licking my hand for its salt. Their muffled speech comes to me, as though they're chanting a prayer to Ron, the god of auto repair. When I'm bored with my hand, I turn to watch their shuffling feet until their chant brings me peace. And the salt on my tongue, the valley heat, the smell of whiskey and cigarettes, and the browning grass beneath me, and Ron's soothing blessing helps me to drift off to sleep. The truth is, Oldsmobile is a word that really scans well. It was a gremlin. Also not a very romantic car, you know. At least we didn't have the denim interior. It's just me here. I'm 9 and staring into the dark green water at the arboretum. Catfish flit along the edge of the pond, coming into my field of vision just for a moment before they disappear. Looking across the expanse of the lake, I feel like they're doing a dance down there, or they're part of some great pattern, and I'm seeing only the tiniest part of it. It's like I'm on the edge of understanding, of seeing the design. It's the same above me. Crows in groups and alone have been traveling southeast all morning, and they clearly have a purpose. They're going someplace specific on some grand mission of a magnitude that requires the entire crow nation. And I think that if I could just get a different angle on either of them, the catfish or the crows, if I could gain some perspective, I could comprehend all of it, that I would have the answer to every mystery. But it's just me here, standing off to the side of the lawn, a little bit away from my family, staring at the edge of the lake and a corner of the sky, trying to understand it all by watching the little I can see. Okay. Let me go just to some of these mythological poems down towards the end. Let's see. I've got a lot about Daedalus and Icarus. Do you know Daedalus and Icarus? Everybody know Daedalus and Icarus? What's that? Yeah. Daedalus helped to trap a metaphor in a maze. But he's trapped on the island for the rest of his life. So he designs these wings so he can fly from the island. It's mythological, isn't it? Really? Yeah. We thought.
You almost had me.
Yeah. That would be nice to sing. It starts flying. His wings are made of wax, and so he's got to fly this perfect middle length. And if he flies too low, the water will pull him down. If he flies too high, the sun will melt the wings. So it's that understanding of science, but it's good thing. And so his son says, Dad, you're just trying to keep me from flying too high. And he goes way up as high as he can because he's got this wonderful freedom. And the wax melts and he falls to his death. Right. And so these are all about Daedalus and Icarus. You got to be careful. The first time I saw Daedalus was down at Acres of Books in Long Beach. I told him that I just regained my hearing after a pretty long period of deafness that left me reading everything I could because no one could talk to me. Daedalus nodded, smiled distantly, and said, "You got to be careful though. Reading's fine. Reading's great, but it's not everything." He rubbed his stubble, 3 days gone. I mean, look at me. I was your typical bookworm as a kid. I never fit in, so I was always reading. I got to be the brightest kid in the kingdom, and that paid off. But I never learned to deal with people, to be with people. I could have learned if I could have learned to talk to people, Icarus probably would. He couldn't find a way to say it, and his face twisted up in wrinkles of suffering. So I told him I understood. I did too. I really did. I wondered what he was like in the old days before Icarus fell to his death. But I suppose, as technically brilliant as he had been, he didn't become a genius until he learned about pain. This is down by the pier. I saw Daedalus one time when I was jogging along the coast in Seal Beach. He was down by the breakers by himself, staring out over the water. I'd heard that back in the early days, after Icarus had fallen to his death, he'd bounce around the Greek islands on the off chance his son had turned his fall into a dive and had lived through it. But he wasn't doing that now. I thought about going down and talking to him and giving him whatever comfort I could. But I knew it was a bad idea. Sometimes we're just alone, and no one can be there for us. And as painful as that is, being taken away from it is much worse. The third Daedalus poem, Flying Too Low. The last time I saw Daedalus, he was down near Dodger Stadium in some dive bar drinking alone. I sat down next to him. I'm ashamed to say not because he was alone, but because he was a star, the one famous person I knew. And I was with friends. He talked about Icarus again, always Icarus, and I fed him some platitude about moving on, and he nodded, his eyes staring at something miles away through the barroom wall, until I left him alone, telling myself I didn't know his brand of pain. They found him hanging by his neck from one of the O's in the Hollywood sign a week after that. He didn't leave a note, but he must have known that we wouldn't need one. And here's my final poem. This is Icarus Lives. Sure, the wax melted and he fell, but his father never came back to check up on him. Icarus turned the fall into a dive, and although he had the wind knocked out of him, he was able to float on his back until he was picked up by a steamer headed to LA. LA seemed the perfect place for him at first. He thought he'd capitalize on his fame, maybe get someone to ghostwrite a book for him, and then hit up all the talk shows. But what he found outside of the hustle of downtown was a kind of peace in the suburbs. The weather was nice in Huntington Beach, and if he let his father think he was dead, he could avoid any further harebrained schemes involving minotaurs. He unloads real estate now and has a couple of kids of his own. The trick, he says in his Hawaiian shirt at a block party, isn't in telling your kids not to fly too high, but knowing when they're old enough for wings. So, thank you.